Hey everybody, it's Eric Kallenborn from the LitX Educator Collective, and I just want to welcome you to our first YouTube video. So we're going to be doing a ton of videos on here, and I hope that you find some stuff out here that's helpful. We have been collecting ideas from educators across the country and listening to you and seeing what you wanted, and this video series that we're going to be doing here on YouTube is a direct result of the stuff you've been telling us that you want. So this video that you're going to watch today is called You Too Can YouTube, and it's an educator's guide to getting started with the medium of YouTube, which came from some suggestions from some educators. So we hope you really enjoy this, and please like and subscribe to the channel. This is a panel that we had submitted to San Diego Comic-Con this year that did not get accepted, so their loss is your gain. So we decided to put it on anyway, and I hope you really enjoy this video, and I'll be back at the end for a little outro, but please enjoy these fantastic professionals talking about the medium of YouTube in your classroom.
Like a year, maybe less than a year before White and Nerdy came out. So I don't, whenever.
So like 06, that's 06. I think White and Nerdy is like 06, 07, if I remember correctly. So probably 05, 06, maybe.
We'll be around there. We don't have to do that though. So I'm just going to get going here, and I'm just going to intro into that. I'm going to play a little bit of the White and Nerdy conversation, and I want to thank everybody for watching this video and welcome to this this panel we put together. This is the first LitX panel. It's going to appear on our YouTube channel, bringing educational content to educators. And we have an amazing lineup for our first panel discussion today. And the topic today is You Can YouTube, an educator's guide to using the medium. And I am here today with Adam Ebert, Jen Worgan. I am here with Eilish Cooper and Ronell Whitaker. If each of you would like to just take a few seconds and tell the crowd a little bit about yourselves before we get into the discussion on YouTube. Ronell, just heading clockwise around my screen, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I've been an educator since 2005, I guess. So not that long ago. I've been using comics a lot in my classroom. I'm currently an administrator, and I just started YouTube, and my YouTube channel is the comic book teacher. I mainly do this thing called The Back Matter, where I do a deep dive into a graphic novel and kind of talk about the societal issues and the context around it.
Okay, Mr. Adam Ebert.
Hi, so my name is Adam Ebert. I am a reading and English teacher in the south suburbs of Chicago. Started teaching 2015. Started my YouTube channel March of this year. My YouTube channel is called Can I Teach It, which is a show that explores the teachability of pop culture across mediums. So I usually talk about film, music, video games, and television with some additional kind of content in between there. And I talk about what something is, how you would teach it or how I would teach it, should you teach it, and explore everything kind of within those things. So Can I Teach It is my YouTube channel.
Thanks, Adam. Jen.
I'm Jen Worgan. I'm a 21-year-old teacher. Not 21 years old. My YouTube channel is Spartan Pride, and I started working a YouTube channel when I started sort of doing an in-flip in my class. I did my Photoshop, I teach photography, and I did my Photoshop tutorials on there. And then since then, now I add some instructional videos for teachers with technology and stuff, and it's become a nice place to curate and gather videos as well for the kids, and they publish their stuff on there as well. So that's what I use it for.
Thanks, Jen. And Eilish Cooper.
Hey there, I'm Eilish Cooper. I'm an art teacher at Oak Lawn Community High School in the south suburbs. I've been teaching for 3 years now, and I've been using YouTube pretty much from the time I started teaching on and off. I didn't officially launch my channel until my second year. So that was August of 2019. And my channel is just kind of all about teaching art skills. So it doesn't get into like big ideas or anything, but it teaches them how to do all those little skills that they have to learn at the beginning of the semester.
Thanks, Eilish. And I will be sure to put a link to all of our YouTube channels in the description of this video. So once you've watched it and you want to see what we're doing and know more about the people that are associated with this video, please go ahead and subscribe, like and subscribe to this channel, and then also give these wonderful people a follow as well. There's some great things going on. Eilish, you have like, what is the most views one of your video has? Aren't you over like a ridiculous amount?
Yeah, I have a tutorial on stippling, just how to draw with dots, and I stipple a sphere, and it has over 100,000 views at this point.
That is a lot of views. So congratulations on that. And thank you all once again for being here. So we're just going to jump right into the meat and potatoes of this. The educators that have contacted me interested in finding out more information have a couple cool questions that we'll get to in a minute. But before we get there, how have you seen or used just YouTube in your classroom? So maybe it's your channel, maybe it's just you've seen another teacher doing an amazing thing with it. Let's just start there.
I'll jump in. I mean, real fast and just say, I think that first what I like to use it for was just digesting like those small clips of media that I wanted kids to have access to. But once our kids went 1-to-1 in our district, I think the main thing that I started to use YouTube for was to have kids become creators. So kids started to make their own short videos, their own content. I think that was probably the most powerful thing I got out of it.
Yeah, and you know, to talk about this year in particular, like Edpuzzle is this amazing resource. It's basically where you upload some sort of YouTube channel, YouTube video, whether that's your YouTube video or someone else's YouTube video. You can add a series of questions that go along with it that are related to whatever the content of the video is. And I know that as I've worked on more student-paced, student-centered lessons, Edpuzzle is something I've used in creating. Not only when we've done readings, often I've casted my screen or recorded my screen as I'm reading a passage, have the students kind of watch through and answer questions related to the passage. I know that's a big thing, but always like, again, YouTube is like, I think bite size is the way I always approach it, is like, all right, I'm going to show you someone delivering an argument or a scene from a film to talk about like suspense, and always trying to keep those things small, you know, whether that's, you know, building towards something bigger or just showing them examples. I think, you know, bite size and just quick, you know, if anything, I try and always shy away from things that are like in the 10 minutes plus range, because then I feel like you're losing a lot of time. But yeah, bite size is the way I usually approach YouTube.
Yeah, I would go, Adam, you said something, I think you said something that was like at their own pace. And that's definitely one of the things that I like it for, is making like a playlist, you know, for, you know, here's where you're at with what you're learning and you're ready to go on, but there's only one of me in the classroom, and why do I have to give all the information? So it's like I use it a lot for the next steps, and then also like remediation or enrichment, right? Because then they can use it in like their intervention period. We have a period in the day, you know, where the kids can come to the classroom, but they can choose sort of their own adventure. And if they're here to learn this skill, they can scan this code and it will lead to their tutorial for what they need there. And that's been really helpful for different, you know, just kids moving forward.
Eilish?
While I've been an educator and not a student, I've never really seen YouTube kind of being like put on for a class and it's like, okay, we're all going to watch this at the same time. Like my first exposure to it as a teaching tool, you know, outside of high school is when I was student teaching, and the teacher there taught painting 1, 2, and 3 at the same time. So I would watch her say, okay, painting 2, you're going to watch me teach this while I teach painting 1, and then painting 3, you're going to go critique together. And so I started using that in my classroom a little bit. And so I've loved it because it's something that's rewatchable, it's short, and I love that you can turn down the speed and turn on captions as you watch it. I've had so many students who have been absent just dial it down to half speed, watch it really slowly, read all the words, and then take it in. And I think they just feel more prepared when they can slow it down and see it the way they want. And then of course there's the students who play it at double speed because they're like, I get this, I got to finish this up. So I love that feature of YouTube.
I love that you said that, because I only really recently discovered the speeding up and the slowing down of videos like relatively recently since YouTube has been out. And it's kind of been a game changer for a lot of like the videos I watch, because some people, and Eilish, we were talking about this too, some like tutorials, some of these people go way too fast and some of them go way too slow when they're doing tutorials about whatever you do, whatever you like to do, painting or cooking or, you know, remodeling a house. Some people just assume you know half the lingo and everything already, and some people just assume you know nothing and talk to you like you're a baby. So to be able to speed up and slow down those things are pretty great. I also have a YouTube channel, by the way. I am the comics teacher on YouTube, and then I'll put that one in there as well. And it's kind of like, you know, it's one of the things we could talk about in a little bit. It's kind of like a potpourri where I have like, I'm doing book reviews, but I'm also doing like some art tutorial sort of things. And then I just have like a doodle on there where I'm just talking about life while I'm doodling. And I'm still trying to figure out like putting them in playlists or what I should do with it. Segueing into the second question though, which is this idea of the benefits of utilizing, and some of us have brushed upon this a few minutes ago, the benefits of utilizing YouTube as a teacher or a student. One of the things that I found extremely beneficial is being able to show the students things that I would not be able to show them in my classroom. Like, for example, OkGo has like an amazing array of videos that do these ridiculously cool artistic things. And if the kids are coming in, for example, when we were on, you know, hybrid or remote learning this year, as they were coming in, you know, kids always were coming in late. I would put on an OkGo video as they were coming in and let this like really cool, interesting thing segue into the learning today. And I always have like some sort of a tie as like a hook or an opener, right? A bell ringer almost, but it's happening before the bell as well. And then when the kids would come in, they would be exposed to that. I don't know how well it's going to work when everybody's back, but I kind of dug that as something I could do with YouTube that I would have had a hard time doing without it, right? Because I can't do the videos that they're making, but I can use that as an example of some of the stuff that people are doing out there. So when you think about that, what are like the benefits of utilizing this medium in your classroom besides some of the things we already mentioned? Anybody have anything there?
I would say, well, first of all, it's free. That's the right price. I love the playlist organization for that, but embed codes, I love that I can load something, get an embed code, and I can put it on, like we use Canvas as our learning management system. I like that I can embed it right into that page on there. And I think that that's helpful for the kid because it's that one-stop shop idea. And I like that. So that's one of my favorite things about it.
And you know, Jen, if somebody doesn't know how to embed a video into Canvas, all they need to do is go to YouTube and they can find out how to embed a video in Canvas, because that's how I did. If I forgot, everything comes back to YouTube.
Yeah, you know, I think when we're talking about instruction, you know, I've taught AP language and composition, and when we're talking about like different argument structures, different models of arguments, you know, when I first started teaching the course, I'd often look to YouTube to be like, whether that's someone associated with College Board or someone who just has a YouTube channel, let me find someone who's going to explain this in a way that's very like engaging, that illustrates exactly what the structures are, especially when you get into like, you know, really complex argumentative structures like the tool mean model and things where it's like when you're introducing it to students for the first time, it can seem really complex. So I think leaning on YouTube to be like, let me find a YouTube video that will, you know, supplement a lesson, supplement a lecture, supplement like, here's why, I'm trying to think of, you know, one of the videos that I showed my students this year was why schools are still segregated, talking about like district lines and things of that nature. And I think that was something that ended up being a little bit more engaging. It was background, but I think it ended up being a little bit more engaging than potentially an article. You know, it was part of like a larger unit, so it worked as a nice source. But, you know, often finding like you know, oftentimes we would find lessons that, you know, where we could find lessons from someone else, like, oh, hey, they did a great job with this, I'm going to steal this. I've done a lot of those same things where it's like, here's someone explaining something in an amazing way, and sometimes probably better than I could have myself.
I like it a lot for enrichment as well. Kind of especially at points in the semester when students are all at different spots, because there are so many things I would love to teach all of my students in class, and I just can't because I've run out of time, or because I want them to have some choice, but I can't teach them 5 things at once. So I love having just a bunch of videos just kind of there floating around for them to choose from, or if I have a sub day, it's so easy to say like, hey, here's this playlist. You could choose anything from this playlist and show me what you've learned. It's just great for all of those extra ideas and all of that bonus content they could learn.
And as somebody who's been in your class and has seen you put those things out there and has followed up and clicked on some of those resources that you've given students, I can tell firsthand, like that is such a cool resource. And that's one thing that I can take away for sure next year, is to using the medium as enrichment. That I totally need to throw more videos up on my canvas for students who are the go-getters. Mr. Whitaker, what do you think?
I'm just really excited about, like, you brought up OK Go. It's like these, you know, example of like showing kids what's possible in the medium. And I think that's probably the most important thing about YouTube, and to some extent your TikToks and your Twitches of the world, right? Content creation has been democratized in a lot of ways. Whereas like when we were kids growing up, it was like you had a talent or a skill that you maybe possibly tapped into, right? And then I think this generation has had the freedom to find a way to discover what that talent might be. It might be as simple as like straight up, I put Mentos in a Coke bottle and figured that thing out. Or I'm a choreographer, or I'm someone who's learned how to dance, right? Like, I think we have a generation of kids now who've learned to go to video media to learn how to do things and to educate one another. And I think that's probably been the most freeing thing about stuff like YouTube. It's just that democratization of creation of content and that access model. I think that's been the most exciting thing.
So each of us have a YouTube channel, and I would like to change gears for a second and just ask each of you individually, for a teacher looking to get started, I want you to go back to when you first started your YouTube channel and your thoughts of maybe you were a little hesitant, a little bit afraid of dipping your toe in the water, and then you just jumped in. So as a teacher, for a teacher who is interested in starting a YouTube channel, either for themselves for personal reasons or for their classroom, what couple bits of advice would you give them that you kind of learned when you first started? I will start with, if you don't mind, Eilish, let me start with you and just tell us what you think, going back, putting yourself in that mind of Eilish Cooper, who was brand new to the medium.
Yeah, for sure. When I first started, well, my first piece of advice would be use your own email address, because I used one tied to the school and then something happened and all my stuff disappeared, which was only like 4 videos, but those 4 videos were the hardest to make because they were the first ones. So I started using my own email address, and then when I later like became monetized and everything, I needed my own address. And I guess the other thing I didn't realize when I started it was how curious people were. Like, I didn't know I was going to be like jumping in and actually starting a channel. I started it because it was convenient. But then when I realized people who weren't my students were watching the videos and who were commenting, I don't know. I wasn't prepared for that many people to actually watch my stuff. So having your own email address set aside and just kind of, it's fun to jump in. I made a bunch of videos that weren't related to all my stuff. I didn't get too caught up in like the analytics of like, oh, if I make this video, then like my views are going to go down. I didn't get too caught up on it. And I think that helped it to be something that's fun and not some kind of a job.
Eilish, when you found that more people than just your students were watching the video, did that change the way you viewed producing the videos or the content you created at all?
Well, not too much, because primarily the videos are for my students. I always want to speak to that high school level, and when I record the videos, I try to like picture them sitting in front of me, and I'm like, how would I explain this to high school students? And then if somebody else connects on that level, that's super cool. But primarily my students are kind of the target audience. And when I look at my analytics, it's like all people their age who are watching. So I kind of know I've found my audience. I did get a better microphone though, because I did realize it was pretty hard to hear my videos and didn't sound that great. So I made some changes to make it look a little better. I started updating my thumbnails, but didn't make too many changes because I still want my target audience of students to actually enjoy these videos.
Cool. We'll get into equipment in a little bit to hear more about Eilish's microphone. Mr. Ebert, what about you starting out? Where did you go starting out? What did you worry about?
Yeah. So I think the two things I always wanted to focus on were, I think first of all, like what would be videos that I would want to see? I think, we've done panels at conventions and conferences. And I think the big focus for that has always been like, if I'm at one of these conferences, what is a panel that I would actually want to go to? And I think some people might say that's kind of like narrow-sided, but I think that's something where you're just playing it close to the chest and like, what do you know and what can you speak to? So I know that's something I started off with my first episode. I tried to find something that was relevant. So my first episode was on WandaVision, the Marvel, Disney Plus show. And I had a really positive response to that. But then my second episode was on an album, Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher. And there was a much smaller reaction to that. But I was like, you know what? Like, if I was still on YouTube, like, and I was looking for like stuff teachers were doing, and I found that someone did how they would teach this album, I'd still be like, that's great. So even when there wasn't as big of a reaction, it was still like, you know what, like if I found this, I would be into it. So I kind of always structure of like, what is something that I wish, whether that's 5 years ago or a year ago, that I would be able to stumble upon it in terms of content. I think the second thing is like have fun with it. I think once I got into like my second or third episode, maybe I wanted to always include a bit that wasn't related to just like teaching this and like the background on something and should you teach it, like like when I did an episode on Dungeons and Dragons, how would you teach with Dungeons and Dragons, that I did, my friend Adon and I, we did like a very basic breakdown of here's how you play D&D. And I did an episode on the film Minari, and I like dipped my toe in stop motion animation. And on my next episode, I'm doing hand-drawn animation. So I've always used kind of each episode to scratch, like, I think sometimes like a filmmaking itch, but like a thing of like, hey, like I want to do this thing. I want to try it out. I've seen other like stop motion. One of my favorite YouTubers, Casey Neistat, he always does like this kind of paper cutout stop motion. So I wanted to try it out for myself, and I found a free app to do it. And then, the hand-drawn animation, I have an iPad, I have Procreate, and it's been incredibly time consuming, but it's been incredibly, I think, easy to do hand-drawn animation. So, and to, the resources are there, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment, but the resources are available and they're not that difficult to acquire. Like, sometimes it is a means of technology, but there's so many resources out there that you can be using. So, and a lot of them, again, are free. So I think, again, dipping my toe to do things that scratch our creative itch without breaking the bank whatsoever.
Jen, the coach in you is probably dying to give some inspirational words to teachers out there dying to jump into the medium. What advice would you give them?
I would just say, think about what's the purpose and how do you want to organize it? Because I think if you start with that, and then everything else falls into place. And somebody once said to me, like, it doesn't have to be perfectly polished, like when you think about, the first instructional video I made was literally like how to use the selection tool in Photoshop. It was 30 minutes long. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous. And these kids would sit in my classroom and they would use this while I teach photography. I was in the darkroom, and I would come out and I was like, how is this, guys? Is it just like having me here? They're like, what's the matter? They're like, it's a little long, Morgan. And I'm like, Oh, and it was good because they gave me that advice. But then it's like, and research is showing us that, the videos shouldn't really be more than 6 minutes long. I mean, once you're in 3 minutes, people are already starting, less than 2 minutes, people are multitasking. So just like beware of time and know your purpose. And I know it's fun to go into like stories that are extra, but I think you want to maybe do those sparingly. Like, I don't know. I think that it's like about what it's for, like during the pandemic, I did a few of these live stream art fun Fridays because I could, and it was a thing that I would do if we were in person at school, and it was like an open art studio. And I wanted to do this for like my neighbor whose child was missing art. That's literally why I started doing it. And then people were like showing up, like former students, and that's okay to tell funny stories during that. I mean, I'm not funny, but I mean, at all. But I mean, like to be personal there, that was a little different. But like when I'm making these instructional videos, I felt like if I started, like you could tell sometimes I was punchy and going into something, and it was like I looked at the clock, I'm like, guys, it's 12:30 and I'm making this for you right now. I'm exhausted. Like they didn't need to know that. So I think it's like you have to kind of weigh what the purpose is. So when do you bring the personal in, right? And just, know the organization of it. I think that's the advice I would give.
That's really good. Ronell, how about you?
Yeah, I was gonna actually reiterate that. I didn't start my video channel as a instructional thing. As a instructional coach in my other former life, I used to make those videos, and I wholeheartedly, agree with Jen. But yeah, start with like your why. Like my why was I'm a nerd, and as you can imagine, I have opinions. So I wanted to share those, right? That was it, and that was the whole point. I wanted something to do that would be interesting to me, and whether people watched it, doesn't matter. I've become really aware that this whole content creation thing, there's no true rhyme or reason to it. Like I have a video on Instagram that is literally just me looking at the camera and like a tweet behind me, and it's like 7,000 people have watched that. It's like, all right, man, like whatever. Like, so at the end of the day, I don't care who watches. I just want to do something that I want to do, and I think as long as you have that clear purpose in mind, you'll be fine.
I like that too. Just keeping track of like those videos that do get traction, and ask yourself like, why did this video, like the video I have the most hits on is like how to read comics. It's like a comics vocabulary video. So I'm like, okay, I think people want more of that. So my next couple of videos are going to be me leaning into that vocab and explaining that to teachers and students and letting them know the vocabulary of comics on my YouTube channel, because obviously that's resonating with somebody, right? I made that video a while back and it's still getting views. So watch those things to the analytics to see where they're hitting. All right. So a question I got from a couple people was about equipment. And I think people are a little bit nervous to kind of jump in with just what they have, right? So I'll let you all think about, what equipment you used and how it's changed a little bit. I'll talk about mine for a second. Like I've always only recorded, for the most part, I have a Sony ZV-1, which I know is a little bit of an upgraded camera. I haven't used it for a video yet. I've just been using my iPhone. And I think I learned that from Eilish. Eilish was like, look at my phone's making these great videos. And I was like, yeah, this looks really good. So I was able to, at first, to get a down view of my comics, I just put it on a cookie drying rack, right? I think people just get creative with your stuff, and you'll find you don't need as many technical gadgets as you need. That cookie drying rack, which was something also I took from Eilish, because she showed me this cool like box she had with holes in it, put her camera on it. So learn from the people around you that you're not going to need a ton of stuff. I think the mic I use plugs right into my phone. It's a Snowball. It's a blue Snowball mic, plugs into my phone. That thing was about $70, and my phone in that is really all I need. And I edit right in iMovie. So my MacBook, I just edit right in iMovie, and that's kind of my things are getting a little bit like I have some lights right here that I ended up buying, but I didn't have those initially. You will gain things as things go. So who would like to go first to kind of talk about their journey through equipment?
I can go first. So when I started, I knew I have a DSLR camera. It's a Rebel T6i, Canon Rebel T6i. I bought it about 6 years ago. And my phone is a little bit older. My phone's about 3 years old, which means that it's ancient by today's standards. So when I was like, do I want to shoot on my phone or do I want to shoot on my DSLR? And I immediately went to like, DSLR's got more lens capability and I like that. So like, okay, I started there. I had a tripod, so I was already halfway there. I had a blue snowball, which I think, Eric, you were just saying you had. And then my classroom where I was shooting the majority of my videos was right next to the like media production broadcasting teacher. So I would always like go over to him and be like, hey, can I get a couple lights? And it would be great because our rooms were connected. So I would literally leave the door open between his room and mine. And I would just be like, all right, I'm going to open it. I'm just going to grab this light. I'm going to put this light up, use it. At some point, I wasn't getting great audio with my blue snowball. So I bought a lavalier mic off Amazon for like $4. And that's been really great. Sometimes I have to mess with like filters when I'm editing, but I was using those lights, shooting on my DSLR. I know, Eric, you mentioned iMovie. I'm on PC. So I was using Adobe Premiere Rush, which is free, but you only get 3 exports that are free. So by the time I think I hit my second or my third episode, I was out of like videos, which I think that's good of like, hey, like you're putting 3 out there. Do you feel like it's worth the investment? Because then I started paying for Adobe Creative Suite, which is for teachers, $20 a month, which I think for the stuff you get is like a really good deal, especially with that discount. And what it helps me use, not only do I use Adobe Premiere, I use Adobe Spark, which kind of helps me make like the thumbnails for my videos. And some posters. I originally used Canva, which Eric and Ronell put me on. And I think that's a great resource, but just to kind of all be in the Adobe ecosystem was really good. And then I've also used, I have Illustrator on my iPad. I have Photoshop on my iPad, and I've started dipping my toe in Adobe Animator, although that's, I think, a little bit too complex for me because I was already using Premiere. I went to film school. Premiere was familiar. I do the literary magazine at Bloom and we design it in Adobe Illustrator. So a lot of those things were kind of familiar to me, but they're also, there's plenty of YouTube videos where you could pick them up. And then the last couple pieces of tech that I bought, because I'm not going to be in my classroom for the summer, I bought 2 lights. I have a light here and a light here. And then I bought a black backdrop for all 3 of those things combined for like $100. And it's been, I think, a pretty, solid investment. And, I know Eric and Ronell have like great like backgrounds that they're filming on. I've been relegated to my basement, which is unfinished right now. So I think the black backdrop is kind of good, but also like I might use it for like other segments when I'm back shooting in my classroom. So I kind of like tiptoed my way into like a few more investments, but kind of using things that I already had, or leeching off of friends when I could. So yeah, I kind of tiptoed my way into a few more resources. But I mean, if you got an iPhone and you have iMovie on that iPhone, it might be a little bit difficult editing on a touchscreen, but most people have laptops. So I think starting there is always a good place to start.
Thanks, Adam. Eilish, you had your hand up there.
Yeah, Eric actually mentioned I started with like a locker shelf when I first started filming, and every once in a while I still use it because I had a school, my phone had like no storage left on it, so I used my school iPad and I would just put it on the locker shelf with the camera pointing through the holes, and the camera's pretty decent. And I didn't know I was gonna really get into YouTube when I first started, so I didn't even edit them, just one take, me just talking through it, real-time speed, whatever I had. Once I got into it and realized I liked it and I wanted to time lapse things, I switched over to my phone, which was like a Galaxy S7 at that point. Now I have an S20. And it takes some pretty quality video. And if I don't want Google Photos to have to like chew on it for as long, I'll actually pull down the quality just a little bit just to get it into iMovie a little bit faster. I use iMovie because it's free and my school provides me with it. So I don't know what I would do if I didn't have that. So hopefully I won't have to worry about that. I really do like iMovie. It's pretty easy to use. I actually have a video that kind of shows my process a little bit of how I white balance everything and add some time lapses and everything else. I've never had to worry about a background because it's always just the camera pointing at my artwork. So I've not really had to think about some of those things. I think the only major investment I made is I got like a $10 tripod one time from Amazon. And then my husband bought me a nicer microphone for my birthday. My laptop mic wasn't cutting it anymore. And I record all my audio in my bedroom closet, sitting on the floor because I have loud neighbors and I have echoey floors. So I always close myself into my closet with all my cords running under the door, and then my microphone will not pick up my laptop fan if I sit in the closet with my nice mic. So not a ton of expensive technology, but hopefully that's encouraging for people who are just getting into it. You don't need a lot, and I think people, there's still an audience for my videos even before I upgraded. A lot of that was just for me, and because I knew that I wanted to kind of take pride in the audio quality and stuff of my videos, but people were watching anyway. Like, if you have good content and if you have a lot to say, then your audience will find you regardless of your tech.
100%. Eilish is proof. Balling on a budget, just getting that stuff done on a budget. And the videos are great. I mean, on the budget they're still really good, and the quality of the content is driving people to that site. Adam said something about Canva. I just want to talk or give a quick pitch. Canva is free. Canva, I found that from a friend, and I've been making my thumbnails through Canva a lot. I might be making some through Procreate now because I'm getting into Procreate as well. But that Canva app, totally canva.com. And it's not even like there's a bunch of ads. It's just a cool free. You can pay for stuff, but check that out. All right. Jen, equipment?
Yeah, I would say the same thing as Eilish. When you're just getting started, the equipment is what you have, right? Whatever it is, it's going to work just fine. And I started with my phone camera, for sure. It was an iPhone. And then I used my iPad. And then I started using I started going up the ladder, and then I did a Canon M50. Makes some pretty great videos, but again, like sometimes when I have to record, and I'm just like right now, I'm sitting at home on my I have an iMac, and that I use that if I'm just talking to them about something. But then I'll attach another camera to this so that my students can see like me, and then the thing that I'm doing. So I use a program sometimes when I'm recording called Ecamm Live. And Ecamm is great because it's like I can pull text in and I can pull video in, and there's other ways to do that because I've also used things like Keynote for animation. Like I'm a big Apple person, and I like the animation features in Keynote. So like I was looking today when you had asked me to join this, I was like looking through some of my videos and how did I make them, and I found videos that had things that were made in iMovie, Keynote. They were recorded on the iOS, and then they were then I put everything into Apple Clips because it had this other thing that I wanted, and then back to iMovie to bring it all together. So I don't know. I find a lot of good things from my Apple stuff. And Canva, yep, I use that for the YouTube thumbnail art, and Adobe Spark. I like Adobe Spark Video for editing. I like Adobe Spark Post and for making some of the pages and the backgrounds behind me. And one of the things that I have found that I really love, it's by Osmo. It's DJI, and I don't know if you say Digi. It's a gimbal for your phone. And I have made some awesome videos like that. There's no shake at all because my videos, like some of them, I make them here, but some of them, like I'm doing outside or I'm doing in the hallway or whatever it is. Like I take it on the road. So this gimbal, it's light, it's sweet, and it's got tracking on it, and it's amazing. I love this thing. So I'll definitely share a link to that. Microphone has been my AirPods or my headphones, like what you have on there. I have one of those snowballs too, but it's on the floor, not plugged in, because the sound, it just, I don't know what it is. I'm not a fan. Yeah, that's my equipment. I'd say that's what I use.
All right, Ronell, I know I've leaned on you in the past for tech stuff, and you've helped me out. Actually, every single one of you have helped me out with tech stuff in the past. So thank you all again for helping me learn things. Once again, lean on your friends if you can. And I'm the only one here with these old school, like wired headphones. As you can see, Ronell, what do you got? What do you got for us? And I know a lot of people have thrown out a lot of equipment there, but
Yeah, so I definitely use my snowball for sound, but I already had it. Like I want to just reiterate, like use what you have. There's no real reason to go out and try to recreate Tyler Perry Studios in your basement or something like that. Like
Amen.
everything. I mean,
Yeah,
Adam,
no,
you bring a filmic quality that only you can do, but everybody else, man, look, I keep bringing up TikTok and stuff like that because like these kids are literally showing us what's possible with what you have, right? These kids are like learning how to edit and do this cool stuff just on their phone. I use my iPhone for all my videos and stuff. I think it's fine. I have a couple of lights I got for $20. Y'all brought up Canva. I use that a lot. I use Keynote a lot for animation stuff too, but Canva has animation stuff. And if you want like some kind of like semi-professional looking animation or like title cards, I use Placeit. I don't know if it's placeit.net or placeit.org, but they're really cool. Most of their stuff is free, and you can also like pay for like a one-time license or something if you want to just use that thing. But yeah, I just want to really like lean into the use what you have. You don't have a mic yet, nobody cares, man. I mean, as long as you make good stuff, or as long as you make engaging stuff, that's all that really matters.
I'll piggyback on that too and say, I think there was one time where I forgot to plug my snowball into my phone and I recorded the whole video, and I went and listened back to it and realized that my mic wasn't plugged into the phone and it still sounded pretty good. I'm like, I'm not going back and recording this 15-minute video because that sounds pretty good. If you get close to that iPhone or whatever, if you have whatever phone you get, if you get close to it and don't shout, it's going to sound pretty good. So yeah, don't think you need to go and invest in a real good microphone right away. All right. So we're going to close with this, and I'm hoping we all have a good story here. So when people get started, one of the things they're worried about is failing, right? So what I would like to do, and Ronell, we could start with you, hopefully. Tell me about a time in this technological world of YouTube, and you're trying to put videos out, and maybe you caught a hiccup. So do you mind sharing a time when like something didn't go right for you, and you were just like maybe defeated and came back for it, or were just like, you know what, this wasn't my day? Do you have a story you could share with us about that?
I mean, kind of, right? Like, so I've been, podcasting and all that kind of stuff for a long, long time. And I've kind of built up calluses about the whole, like, making a mistake thing. But I think every YouTuber has that hidden reel that has them cursing up a storm, like in the middle of something that they just said or they just did. Like, I'm so glad that I edit things, because like there's always that huge F-bomb in the middle of something that I just said or did. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like I tend to have learned a lot from early mistakes. So like the biggest thing to really worry about is just taking your time, man. Like I feel like, it's easy to get caught up in the whole like wanting to be perfect thing. But as long as you're not moving fast, you'll be fine. Like people will say stuff like, did you forget to press record or something like that? And yeah, that happened like years ago, but now it's really simple. Like I think I live in a really no pressure environment. And like something like YouTube, if you ever feel like you feel under pressure for YouTube, I want you to say that sentence out loud and reflect for a second. Like once you say that out loud, it's like, yeah, I'm tripping. Let me calm down and not like bug out over YouTube. So yeah, man, I just try to like make it really low stakes. If something messes up, it messes up. But I don't really bug out about that, man. Like, and if I was making $1 million a video, then yeah, I probably would. Then I'd have somebody else I'd pay to worry about that crap, and I wouldn't do it anyway.
All right. Perfect. Well said. Jen, what about you? Do you have a hiccup that you would like to share with us?
I was recording a webinar for Illinois Art Ed Association, and I was teaching about Adobe Spark, but I was live, and I had it set up so that I would, start live, and then I would press play on my video of me teaching it. Well, I didn't realize that the small me was going to be on the inset in the bottom corner, and I was sitting there drinking wine, and then the person who was recording, she was texting me like, Jen, stop drinking wine, you're on, they see you. And I was like mortified. So yeah, that happened, but I can't undo it, and it was live, like there was nothing I could do about it. So I would just say, pay attention to your beverage.
David Sedaris,
coffee mug, man. You gotta use a coffee mug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just keep a glass of pens that I drink. Yeah, what David, I said, I've been listening to this David Sedaris, right? And once again, he said, whenever something terrible happens to you or something bad happens to you, don't get upset. Just know now you got a good story. And that's a great story. And we talked about that too at the flat tire bit too. Like that was just serendipitous. we don't have time for that story right now, but that was a good one too. Eilish, hiccup?
I mean, most of the hiccups were really small at the beginning, but what really pushed me to start, muting all the audio and just voicing over it later was there were just so many times that I'd have to put a recording in session, sign on my door. And I think what really drove me nuts when I was first recording is the bell at my particular school just kind of repeats itself a lot, and that would somehow happen every time I was in the middle of a recording. So I mean, that was my main thing. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta mute it and voice it over. And then I can sing along to my music. I can I can do whatever I want while I'm working on these tutorials because I'm gonna mute all of it later. The other thing I do, just in case, I've never had a problem with it, but just in case, is I always leave my videos unpublished, or I schedule them for the next day, just in case something goes wrong with my video, or I realize that I uploaded it with no sound or something. So I've never had a hiccup there. It's a thing I worry about. So I don't publish until I know that it's going to look okay on YouTube.
I completely understand what you're saying. I was editing one of my videos and I forgot to, if I'm doing book reviews, I'll generally review a book and then I'll just no, I'm going to edit the next part out. So I won't stop recording. And I'll just be talking to myself, all right, I'm going to do this book next, and I'll get it all ready. But I left one of those in one of my videos before I published it, and I'm rewatching it, and it's all right, so, let's get to the next book. And then just talking to myself and singing, and I'm just oh my God, I can't believe I almost forgot to edit that out. Luckily, I caught it before I edited, but oh my God, it was so funny. Adam, tell us about your hiccup.
So I, for my episode on Dungeons and Dragons, I interviewed over Google Meet, not over Zoom, but over Google Meet. I interviewed my friend Ben, who is an elementary school teacher. We played Dungeons and Dragons together, and I wanted to interview him on how he would bring D&D into his classroom. And we're on the call, and I'm recording the Google Meet because the Google Meet is just going to be transferred over into my episode. And over the course of us talking about it, his video just gets fuzzier and fuzzier and fuzzier, and then eventually I just can't see him anymore. So I'm talking to it's the letter B on a screen, and I'm oh shoot, and I'm Ben, are you still there? And he's yeah, I'm still here. And then I think he had the opposite thing, where I cut out, and when I was editing it, I mean, it was a 10-minute clip of the interview, and I think I cut out the beginning, where we didn't really talk about everything we I could cut out the first 3 minutes that were fuzzy, but then apparently it happened again in the conversation where he asked me if I was there, but I left that in because it's oh man, it's a 10-minute clip. It seemed fine. I watched through it maybe once, and then after I published it to YouTube, the day after, my wife was watching it, and she was did you know that it's like Ben asked where you are? And I was like, yeah. And then I kind of had this like moment of panic, and then I was like, yeah, I don't care. It's fine. Like, cause it's like, it would have been, you know, I would have been probably editing it at like, you know, 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, I want to worry about this stuff. I'm not watching that interview again. And then there's a part where, you know, my friend Ben is like, Adam, are you there? And, but you know, I'm not going back and watch it in. And people also know that, you know, it's the internet. So things are going to happen. Technology, things are going to happen. So.
You know, and that's easy. That's easy to forgive, right? That's easy to forgive. If somebody's like, if I'm watching a video, like I remember that I watched that video, of course. And now that you say that, I remember that. But I remember, like, I didn't think anything of it.
Didn't even dawn on me. Didn't even like it just.
Yeah. It's just like, because that's what we always ask. Are you there? Can you hear me? Am I on mute? Like, there's certain things that like
as teachers, we're all used to it.
Yeah. But listen, everybody, I want to thank you all for your time. This YouTube first LitX educational video is going to be coming up very soon. We'll be dropping this on Saturday. So for those of you who are watching this, it's already dropped because you're watching it. So thank you all for watching. Just make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I want to thank this wonderful panel of educators that are here today. Ronald Whitaker, we got Adam Ebert, Eilish Cooper, and Jen Worgan here. Thank you again so much for your time, everybody. And thank you all for watching, and we will see you later.
All right, so there you go. That was great, and I hope you picked up some tips and tricks to get started on YouTube on your own. Once again, remember, like we said in the video, all of the educators that you saw in this video, their YouTube channels and as many of their social media handles as we could collect are in the comments below. So please visit and like and subscribe their channels. Reach out to them if you have any specific questions. Also comment in this video here. We'd be happy to answer questions you have, but you know, make sure you are subscribing and keeping up with us, because we're going to do at least 4 to 5 cool educational panels this summer and then keep that rolling into the school year. The LitX Collective is rolling, and thanks for being here on the journey with us.